Ladies and gentlemen, we're glad you're here. Again, I'm Corey McPherrin from Fox 32, and it's my honor to be with you tonight. What a great organization and what a wonderful room, what a venue, right? Every time I come in here, I think of The Fugitive. I'm looking for Harrison Ford somewhere, right? I'm not sure he's here tonight, but we have so many distinguished guests and familiar faces in the audience, not the least of which, of course, is tonight's honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to tonight's honoree, Jim Reynolds, as well as his wife, Sandra, and their children. The Lincoln Presidential Foundation is delighted to gather us together this evening to recognize Jim's dedication to advancing equal opportunity and to breaking the cycles of disparity. His challenge to corporate America to find a better way to provide opportunities for African Americans to grow and flourish exemplifies many of the same ideals President Lincoln espoused. We are also pleased tonight to welcome Bryan Traubert, chairman of the Pritzker Traubert Foundation. Bryan is dedicated to equalizing opportunity in the Chicago community and is a good friend of Jim's, and we are honored that he will be presenting Jim with the Lincoln Leadership Prize tonight. So please join me in welcoming these very special guests. Right there at table 12 in the center of the room. So again, I'm honored to be with you tonight, and on behalf of our host, the Lincoln Presidential Foundation, I want to officially welcome each of you, our generous guests, and thank you for joining us for this, the 16th annual Lincoln Leadership Prize. And now, we want to welcome to the stage Lincoln Presidential Foundation's President and CEO, Aaron Carlson Mast.
Thank you, Corey. Good evening, Mr. Reynolds, Dr. Traubert, and distinguished guests. On behalf of our board, staff, and event co-chairs, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you. The Lincoln Presidential Foundation has had a momentous year. As the only foundation in the nation dedicated to leading and supporting efforts across places that make the story of Abraham Lincoln's life, legacy, and leadership available to all, we had no shortage of opportunities to collaborate. Last spring, we announced our new partnership with the National Park Service, focused on Lincoln Home National Historic Site right here in Illinois. We got to work with our partners, addressing important landscape conservation, educational programs, and community events. And we're delighted to be joined tonight by Lincoln Home Superintendent Tim Good. Tim, please raise your hand. Tonight, I want to highlight just two examples of what our partnership has managed to accomplish in less than a year. Lincoln Home National Historic Site hadn't had a new core exhibit in over 20 years, and we are creating not one, but two new groundbreaking exhibits in historic buildings that aren't currently open to the public. The first exhibit, which will be opening this summer, features the stories of 6 people of diverse backgrounds whose lives impacted or were impacted by the Lincolns. It's the first core exhibit designed for a youth audience in the entire park and potentially within the entire National Park Service. We're grateful to the Nelson Family Foundation for their leadership gift towards that effort. The second exhibit, which we've just gotten underway, will focus on Julius Rosenwald, whom many of you are familiar with. His boyhood home is right inside the park across from Lincoln Home itself. The first phase of this project is made possible thanks to an inclusive storytelling grant from the National Park Foundation. It will be the first core exhibit on a Jewish American in the first structure named for a Jewish American in any National Park Service unit. It's a golden opportunity to explore stories of leaders from different generations who addressed inequity and built pathways of opportunity, just as honoree Jim Reynolds is doing today. These exhibits will fundamentally change the experience for hundreds of thousands of visitors who come to Lincoln Home every year from across the state, the nation, and the world. Our foundation is also part of leading efforts around civic education and planning for the 250th anniversary of our nation. We were recognized as an Educating for American Democracy champion, a commitment reflected in accomplishments from this past year, including all new digital history, curriculum, and primary resources, a robust speaker series, the successful completion of our role in a project to digitize over 9,000 manuscripts, partnering with Lincoln Forum on its Gettysburg Symposium, and a project I want to highlight tonight. Thanks to generous support from Iron Mountain, our foundation launched a multimedia project on Lincoln's response to rising tensions in the 1850s, the tumultuous decade between his congressional term and his presidency. Understudied compared to the American Civil War, the 1850s contain invaluable lessons about leadership and our experiment in self-governance. One of the highlights was a 4-part short documentary film series titled Warning Signs, and I'm delighted to share with all of you that this, our first ever film series, has already won 3 separate awards, including a Telly for Best History Series. And I believe we have the trailer to play for you tonight.
The 1850s was a time of great political crisis for the country. You've got violence everywhere as the nation is just fracturing over this issue of slavery. You have people shooting each other and chopping their heads open with broadswords. In the US Senate, you have Charles Sumner getting beaten to within an inch of his life.
It's a period in which people are incredibly engaged with the political world.
Lincoln's actually coming right out and saying, it's either going to become all slavery or all free. This can't go on this way.
During the 1850s, there were clear warning signs, if you will, about political trouble brewing. Trouble brewing sufficiently enough that it could eventually disrupt the Union, produce what was called at the time secession, that could very likely lead to civil war.
You can stream the 4-part series from our website and YouTube. I hope you enjoy them and share them widely. Lastly, at each of your places, you found a bookmark. On one side is a quote that when I found it, it just felt perfect for this evening. As many of you know, Abraham Lincoln's train ride to Washington, D.C. in 1861 took about 2 weeks, with many stops and events along the way. One such stop was in Cincinnati, Ohio, on Abraham Lincoln's birthday. In his speech, he said, quote, "I hold that while man exists, it is his duty to improve not only his own condition, but to assist in ameliorating mankind." Those words are strikingly similar to the words and actions of Jim Reynolds, whom we honor today on his birthday with the Lincoln Leadership Prize. On the reverse, you'll see an invitation and a link to give. Thanks in no small part to your generous support of evenings like this, we're delivering on our mission in new and creative ways with new partners to bigger audiences for greater impact. Thank you for your friendship, partnership, and generosity as we come together this evening to honor Mr. Reynolds' remarkable leadership on his birthday. Please, I hope you enjoy yourselves this evening.
Can't wait to see the entire film. It looked terrific. We'd like to now take a few moments to honor the memory of several individuals the Lincoln Presidential Foundation lost in the past year, knowing their impact on the foundation's mission will be everlasting. First, Patrick Coburn. A reporter once noted Pat Coburn loved Chardonnay, art, travel, and Springfield. We would add that Abraham Lincoln would also be on that list. A Madison County native and longtime Springfield resident, Pat joined the reporting staff at the State Journal-Register back in 1966 and became its publisher in 1997. He became a member of the foundation's board in 2004 and served for 16 years. Even after he retired from the board, he remained a generous and supportive champion through the end of his days. Pat will long be remembered for his community advocacy and support of major educational and cultural institutions in the state. Patrick Coburn. Next, Newt Minow. Newt once said he hoped to be remembered for his role in establishing communication satellites, which led to the global information revolution, to digital communications, and eventually to the internet. When President Kennedy reportedly asked Newt, "Why is it more important to put a satellite than a man into space?" Newt replied, "Because the satellite puts ideas into space, and ideas last longer than men and women." Pretty good answer. Between 1926 and 2023, Newt served many roles, including as FCC chairman, co-founder of the presidential debates, and co-founder of PBS. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama at the age of 97. Newt and his wife, Josephine Minow, were close friends of the Presidential Foundation and of many people in this room. At last year's Lincoln Leadership Prize, when the foundation remembered Joe's incredible service to the foundation and to the world, Newt provided a touching video tribute to his late wife. For almost 7 decades, Newt and Joe provided generous support to the foundation and numerous other educational institutions, charities, and civic initiatives impacting lives here and, in fact, around the world. In 2017, the foundation presented its inaugural Charity for All award to Newt and Joe Minow, and their impact is nothing short of inspiring. Thirdly, Wayne Whalen. Wayne led a remarkable life, inspired by another man who was known for his principles, intellectual curiosity, generosity, and humor, and that would be Abraham Lincoln. Wayne was an early champion and leader at the Lincoln Presidential Foundation. He served on the board for 17 years, 6 of them as chairman. He recruited numerous supporters, honorees, and board members to the cause. He led the foundation through major initiatives and national anniversaries, including the Civil War 150th. Through it all, he remained an avid student of Abraham Lincoln's life and legacy. The Lincoln Presidential Foundation is committed to honoring Wayne's life. And this past year, in consultation with those who knew him best, the foundation established the Wayne Whalen Memorial Fund. Those funds will be used to make the story of Abraham Lincoln's life, legacy, and leadership available to all, and to appropriately honor Wayne's scholarly spirit and servant's heart with 2 initiatives, an annual award recognizing civic leaders, and programs that democratizes the study of Lincoln history for years and years to come. Wayne Whalen. Once again, so happy you're all here tonight on this very special night. Now, you may have heard earlier that there's someone in the room celebrating a birthday. And that would be Jim Reynolds. How do you like that? It's his night in many different ways, right? So from the Lincoln Presidential Foundation, and on behalf of everyone who has assembled tonight, we want to honor Jim's leadership and wish you the happiest of birthdays, Jim. The timing obviously could not be more perfect. We are thrilled and honored that you have chosen to spend this very special day with us. So, shall we? Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you. All right. Have your cake and eat it too, Jim. And now joining me on the podium, Foundation Board Member, Chair of the Lincoln Leadership Prize Committee, my good friend, Carrie Heitman. Carrie.
Thank you, Corey. Jim, you throw a hell of a birthday party, I gotta say. I'm taking notes. So on behalf of the Lincoln Presidential Foundation Board of Directors, the Lincoln Leadership Prize Committee, and my fellow co-chairs of tonight's event, welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight. This is an evening to remember, and we're thrilled you could be here and join us in honoring Jim. I would like to now recognize the Platinum and Gold sponsors for their philanthropic spirit and commitment to the good work of our foundation carries out in Abraham Lincoln's name. And of course, as I say every year, please hold your applause till I say all of these names first. Abbott, Allstate Insurance Company, BMO, Charles and Marianne Babrinskoy, the Selmer Neal Foundation, GCM Grosvenor, Loop Capital, Raymond F. and Judith, yes, I heard, you're entitled to, it's all for Jim. Raymond F. and Judith McCaskey, John L. Now III, Northern Trust, Reputation Partners, LLC, Patrick G. and Shirley W. Ryan, Skadden, Arp, Slate, Meager, and Flom, LLP, United Airlines, Wintrust, and World Business Chicago. So please, join me in a round of applause for all of these companies. So to those of you who have already supported the event, we thank you very much. Your generosity helps to make possible the creative and groundbreaking exhibits, projects, and programs you heard about tonight from Erin, and she's done a great job in moving these projects forward. To those of you who have not yet donated, we hope you'll take this opportunity to do so. So you heard about the bookmark with the quote on it. It's located at your seat. There's also a QR code on that bookmark that links directly to our donation page. Our award-winning work in public history is essential to the health of our nation. Abraham Lincoln's legacy is far-reaching, and the needs for education, preservation, and history are greater than ever. We invite you to join our nonprofit's efforts to uncover new research and new perspectives on Abraham Lincoln. These efforts are key to understanding and addressing what he called the unfinished work of freedom and democracy. Your support is essential. Now, at this time, and as your program shows, I would normally introduce our foundation board chair, Satch Pokori. Unfortunately, for reasons beyond his control, Satch is unable to join us this evening, but he sends his sincere gratitude to tonight's generous guests and a heartfelt congratulations to recipient Jim Reynolds. The Lincoln Leadership Prize, established in 2006, recognizes outstanding leaders in diverse fields. In honoring leaders of meritorious quality, the foundation celebrates Lincoln's far-reaching legacy of leadership. The prize is awarded to exceptional individuals for a lifetime of service in the Lincoln tradition, who accept the responsibilities imposed by history and demanded by conscience. Recipients of the prize receive an exact replica of the right hand of President Lincoln that was created by American sculptor Leonard Volk in the spring of 1860. So this is the 16th time we have presented the Lincoln Leadership Prize. Our past recipients include Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Captain James Lovell, Tim Russert, Lech Walesa, President Bill Clinton, Steven Spielberg, the Little Rock Nine, Doris Kearns Goodwin, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Prime Minister Tony Blair, President George W. Bush, David L. Rubenstein, Gary Sinise, Melody Hobson, and now, tonight's very deserving recipient, Jim Reynolds. Relationships mattered deeply to Abraham Lincoln. He often relied on his closest friends for guidance in challenging times. He even wrote, quote, "The better part of one's life consists of his friendships." Jim, you have countless friends and colleagues who believe in you and your ongoing mission to give back to the Chicago community, in addition to your impressive track record of corporate leadership and philanthropy. Here are just a handful who wish to pay tribute to you on this, your special night.
Happy birthday, Jim. I can't believe how long I've actually known you. Since I was a pipsqueak at Ariel, and I looked at you and so many of John Rogers' friends as models of opportunity and what I wanted to be in my career. And look at us now. I'm so excited for you, and I want to wish you a huge congratulations. So excited for you, and I want to wish you a huge congratulations. You're someone who has demonstrated such persistence, and you've shown such drive and energy, and certainly a concern for others, and made a real impact on the Chicago community. I'm really, really happy for you, and I am rooting for you every single day. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Mike Schill, president of Northwestern University. I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate Jim Reynolds on receiving the 2023 Lincoln Prize. Jim is a terrific alumnus of Northwestern. He's incredibly involved. He's made important contributions to the Kellogg Global Advisory Board. He's also a really important member of the Northwestern Black Alumni Association. And he really has done so much in our community as well as the community at large. I'm really proud of you, Jim. Congratulations. And also, have a happy birthday.
Jim, first and foremost, happy birthday. I regret that I cannot be with you this evening to celebrate your acceptance of the Lincoln Leadership Prize. I sincerely appreciate the Lincoln Presidential Foundation's allowing me to join the party via video. For over 35 years, I have been your lawyer, employee, partner, and most importantly, your friend. I have seen you outperform your peers at the best of bulge bracket firms, yet have the vision, courage, confidence, and skill set to become an entrepreneur and create your own international financial platform. To say that you are an outstanding leader of men and women is an understatement. You have been blessed with many gifts. Among the most important are your empathy and compassion for people and your commitment to excellence. You have the unique ability to motivate people to achieve more than they ever thought possible. I have seen you do this to yourself, to me, and countless others. On behalf of all of us whom you have touched and driven to be better, I say thank you. Jim, much respect, love, and gratitude for our special times together, past, present, and future. Congratulations to you, Sandy, JR, Miles, and Kendall on this special tribute. Cheers, my brother.
When Jim Reynolds and I came to Wall Street in the 1980s, there weren't a whole lot of people around that looked like either of us. It was definitely a land of white men from privileged backgrounds, kids who played varsity hockey and basketball, and every now and then a black person or a woman. Hasn't changed all that much in the years since, except for the changes that Jim has helped to make. By founding Loop Capital in 1997, after a successful career working in bulge bracket firms, he showed the way. He showed the way to others like him and like me that you can be as successful as the big firms and actually create value, both in the place of employment and for our clients and customers. Jim is more than a leader in finance, though. He's a leader of people. He has opened his doors to people of all colors, backgrounds, races, creeds, and created one of the firms of the world that really represents what the world should look like. It is a privilege and an honor to have worked with Jim and to have known him and to have helped him on his path to success. I count him as a friend among others, and more importantly, I count him as one of those people that you can always count on, which in the world of finance, there aren't that many.
It's a pleasure and an honor to recognize Jim Reynolds on receiving the 2023 Lincoln Leadership Prize. I can think of no one more deserving. He is an exceptional and immensely successful investment banker, entrepreneur, and civic leader. His story of determination and commitment to build a business, many businesses actually, and to create opportunity for his clients and employees would in and of itself be an admirable capstone. But as I've learned from Jim, that's just a foundation to do more for society. From the moment Jim joined SIPMA's board of directors, he's been pushing the securities industry to seize the moment to attract and recruit the talent that looks like America and the clients we serve. That's something he's been doing at Loop Capital for many years. And now as the chair of our board and my boss, Jim has inspired us to make it a top priority for the industry. As he likes to say, Wall Street needs to fish where the fish are. And through his leadership, the industry is expanding its outreach to the broader community of HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions to recruit the next generation of talent. On a personal note, it has been an honor for me to work with Jim. We both came into the business in the 80s, and I'm constantly in awe of him. He's an old-school banker, always on the move, but never without time to provide counsel and advice from the wealth of knowledge he has built up over the years. As hard as he works, which seems to be 24 hours a day, he never wavers from his commitment and determination to help others get a chance to succeed, to make a difference in society. Congratulations, Jim, on this great honor. It is well-deserved, and thank you for your leadership in making our industry and our nation as good as it can be.
Good evening. Jim, it's been my pleasure to work with you over a number of years as both friend and partner on a number of large and complex community development initiatives. When you look at the list of past recipients of the Lincoln Leadership Award, it is an iconic list of honorees. You belong on that list. From our work together over these last several years, 3 things stand out in my mind that make you the ideal candidate for this Distinguished Leadership Award. First is partnership. You're the definition of a true partner. You approach everything with a true spirit of finding an equitable balance that respects the interests of everyone involved, no matter their stake in a project or their position in life. Second is integrity. There's never a willingness to compromise on the real principles of integrity. And third is community. Few people in our industry are willing to stand tall and face all the challenges of driving transformative ideas that can have a generational impact on the people most in need of opportunity. Your life story is an inspiration to everyone, and your unwavering commitment to drive outcomes that will make a difference in people's lives for generations to come is second to none. It's my honor to have this opportunity to recognize you on your birthday as the 2023 recipient of the Lincoln Leadership Award. While this award is a great testament to all that you've accomplished in life, the real tribute tonight to you is the fact that the best is yet to come. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jim, on being awarded the 2023 Lincoln Leadership Prize. I also want to say thank you to the Lincoln Presidential Foundation for choosing to celebrate a person who for decades has been on the front lines of addressing systemic inequality and creating opportunities for people from all walks of life. Jim, a generation of Chicagoans have benefited from your courageous efforts and commitment. You've succeeded at the highest levels on the global business stage while keeping your feet and your heart firmly grounded in the Chicago communities that need your voice and advocacy the most. I deeply appreciate our friendship. I am, however, most grateful for the path you've blazed and the example you have set for me and many others who have watched you time after time step forward to champion causes that are much bigger than yourself. This is, quite simply, our opportunity to say thank you. Now enjoy this evening, because your life's work is not close to complete. We all need you back on the front lines tomorrow. Congratulations again, my friend.
Talk about a tribute, right? Fantastic. In fact, a few minutes ago, when Carrie was reciting all the previous prize winners, I said something to Bryan and Jim at table 12. I said, what a list. And Jim whispered, "What in the heck am I doing on that list?" Which probably says a lot about the man. The Lincoln Leadership Prize tonight will be presented by Bryan Traubert. Bryan, currently the chairman of the Pritzker Traubert Foundation, which is dedicated to combining their passion for Chicago with the expertise of innovative partners to increase economic opportunities. For more than 30 years, he practiced ophthalmology in Chicago after receiving his bachelor's degree from the Citadel and his medical degree from the University of Illinois. He is the vice chairman of the executive committee of the Chicago Community Trust, and he also serves on the boards of Loyola University, Lyric Opera of Chicago, and Steppenwolf Theater. He previously served on the National Park Foundation Board, where he was chairman from 2017 to 2019, and served as president of the Chicago Park District Board from 2010 to 2015. Tonight, we are honored to have Bryan here with us to present his friend Jim Reynolds with the prestigious Lincoln Leadership Prize Award. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Bryan Traubert.
Well, good evening, everyone. Corey, thank you. Special treat for me tonight. Corey and I raised our kids together, so to show up at this dinner and to see Corey emceeing it and do such a wonderful job, it's a treat to be with you. So first of all, good evening. My name is Bryan Traubert, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Jim Reynolds for 30 years. And like so many in this room, I'm proud to call myself a friend and deeply admire Jim. And I'm truly honored he asked me to introduce him tonight, and as he's presented with the 2023 Lincoln Leadership Prize. Let me say first off that I could simply cite Jim's fabulous wife, Sandy, and their 3 extraordinary kids, JR, Miles, and Kendall. These lights are something else, but are you guys here? Can you just, all right. So anyway, we're so glad that you're here. And like I said, I could probably just cite you guys and point out that is representative of Jim's priorities, his judgment, and his impact. And then I could just sit down, but I'm not gonna do that. I've got 5 minutes, I promise. And a lot of what you'll hear resonates with what you've already heard, which I think just shows the authenticity of the impression that Jim makes. And nothing's more important to Jim than family, but allow me to get a few other facts and stories out about our friend Jim Reynolds. First of all, to be completely honest with all of you, I was quite intimidated when Jim asked me to do this. I mean, this is a person self-made of enormous accomplishments in business, civic leadership, philanthropy, and creating opportunity. He has genuine friendships with the likes of Magic Johnson, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Charles Barkley, and a bevy of others. So I have to ask myself, why the heck did this impressive friend of mine pick me? And I mean, when Desmond Tutu received this award, they got Oprah. But after thinking about it, I think the reason why is because for decades, I've seen Jim Reynolds up close and personal, roll up his sleeves, get to work, and do the hard work of creating opportunity across every aspect of Chicago life, including for-profit, nonprofit, and government service. Jim and I served together on the board of the Chicago Community Trust, whose bold goal is to narrow the racial and ethnic wealth gap in Chicago. Jim is our board chair. As Jim's vice chair, or what I call his wingman, I've seen his total commitment and his prodigious leadership toolbox. He has the ability to inspire oratorically, as well as work quietly behind the scenes, provide mentorship, think strategically, and lead by his skill at listening to understand rather than listening to respond. Jim will often say about life and happiness that you get out what you put in, and that when it comes to building things and making a difference and achieving dreams, there are, as Jim says, no shortcuts. It comes with discipline, grit, and commitment. So reflecting on what to say about Jim tonight in the context of the monumentally impactful life of Abraham Lincoln, I think of two essential things. One is their mutual sense of origin and place. And the second is the connection of two arcs of American history, characterized by a personal refusal to accept things the way they are. As to place, while it's true that Lincoln eventually belonged to the ages, he was a man of Illinois. From his home in Springfield to his campaigns and the Lincoln-Douglas debates, to his time in Chicago. In 1860, he accepted the Republican presidential nomination at a building located at the corner of what is now Lake Street and Wacker Drive. From his campaigns and political start all the way to the funeral train home, Lincoln was a man of Illinois. The land of Lincoln is more than a slogan on our license plates. In a similar way, Jim is not only from Chicago, he is of Chicago. And he is someone who, as the Jesuits say, is a person for others. Jim's love and commitment to his hometown is indeed boundless. He grew up on Chicago's segregated South Side, where overt and covert racism and institutional racism forced black people to live in specific areas of our city, suffer countless indignities and massive economic, health, and education disparities, many that exist to this day. Jim Reynolds grew up in Englewood, which today has a life expectancy a full 30 years less than Streeterville, just 9 miles away. Jim was blessed to have remarkable parents who were part of the great migration north from the Jim Crow South. In the span of history, Jim's parents' lives were not that many years or too many miles distant from the life and impact of our 16th president. Arriving in the 1940s in Chicago, in addition to raising Jim and his siblings, his mother worked downtown at Woolworth's. Even though she was no longer in Mississippi, Jim told me the job at Woolworth's was an opportunity she got partly because she was lightly complected. Jim's dad drove north from Alabama, seeking a better life, and honed skills and moxie that made him an entrepreneur as a cab driver, and later he worked at the old Campbell Soup Factory. A story I love about Jim is how he decided to go to college and play basketball at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse after he discovered his vocational high school had not adequately prepared him to be a TV repairman. On to Plan B. As an athlete in college, Jim put in countless hours honing his skills and walked by the library hundreds of times on his way to the gym. One day, he looked at the kids in the library studying, and it hit him. I should be in there. I belong in there. That night, he quit the basketball team and dedicated himself to academics. Within weeks, he went from a C student to a straight A student. His grades improved so suddenly that he got called into a professor's office after he aced a test. Thinking Jim might be cheating, he was required to take the same test then and there in front of the professor in the office. He aced it again with the same exact score. After graduate school, and now back in Chicago, Jim rose to the top in a series of jobs at best-in-class financial companies until he started Loop Capital in 1997 and built it into the colossus it is today. Jim will tell you he's a proud business builder, believing that creating jobs and opportunity is the game changer for people. Throughout his life, Jim has had a hand in creating thousands of jobs and giving back. As stated, this is a man of Chicago and of his community, which he will never forget or turn his back on. Guys like Jim can live anywhere, and he gets overtures to do so. The allure of Florida or Texas, warmer weather, lower taxes, escaping complicated, tragic big city problems. Not Jim. Not Jim. Like President Lincoln, Jim sees a moral imperative to helping others, and not only pursuing improved racial justice, but much needed economic justice. A principled refusal to accept things as they are. Jim tells me about his commitment to the black youth of our city and that he will never quit on them. Jim truly sees them, and he also sees himself in them. And in Jim's words, he wants young people to see me, to hear me, to know where I'm from, to see what's possible, and know I can relate. Jim truly sees them. So Jim, you are a person of optimism, abundant positive energy, grit, courage, integrity, creativity, collaboration, humor, and of course, hope. I'm grateful for your friendship, and I'm grateful for your all-in civic commitment and your commitment to Chicago. Congratulations on this high honor you're receiving tonight, and for living a life of such significant impact for others. I hope you all please join me in congratulating Jim and celebrating him and walking him to the podium. Jim.
Well, I'm not really normally known as a crier or anything like that, but you almost have to tear up with an intro like that. I almost feel like it would be a letdown for me to say anything after that, Bryan. But I brought a book up with me. So Bryan was a little surprised when I called him and asked him to introduce me. He said, Jim, you know all these people. And I do. And you see and you work with, and you can get just about anybody to introduce you. And likely I could. But I said, Bryan, this is serious times. These are serious issues. I don't need a movie star or an athlete or any of those type of people. that don't know Chicago to fly in from some other coast to introduce me just because they know me and like me. I need somebody that's got substance and some Chicago chops. Somebody that's kind of been with me through the trenches and through the tough times that we've dealt with over 30 years. Now, I didn't know Bryan would remember every story I've told him over those 30 years. Because we loved to drink great wine together, and he always said, Jim, tell that TV repair story one more time. Tell the story again of how you quit the basketball team and got straight A's. And I didn't know he would actually tell you all that. Bryan's a wonderful partner, great partner, and I appreciate that. Look, when Reverend Jackson starts clapping, we all should be clapping. I have so many wonderful friends in this room, virtually everybody, that I'm not going to go out and name anybody because invariably something would be left out. But I have to name one person. One of the greatest human beings in history. Somebody that I also call my 30-year friend, that I've done so many wonderful things with, that I've learned so many things from. We've traveled internationally. We've met kings, princes, presidents, all folks of various esteem and power, and none of them more significant than him. A man who could have done anything, could have made countless amounts of money and wealth, but didn't want to do anything but has helped people. One of the greatest civil rights leaders in the history of the world, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Bryan, I'm truly humbled and honored by your wonderful words and your willingness to do this in our friendship. To be mentioned in the same breath as Lincoln is a dizzying prospect for me. When Charlie Brabinskoy called me up and told me that I would be receiving this award, I had various emotions. I was honored, humbled, surprised, but most of all, the thing that I felt is a sense of duty. Because as honored as I feel tonight, I don't see this tonight or this award as a victory lap at all. Not when we have so many miles left to run in this race to uplift our city. Instead, I want to use this as a call to action. So when they asked me to say a few words tonight, they mentioned, Jim, you're going to speak for 7 minutes or 15 minutes. I said, well, what's the third option? So I'm going to encourage everybody, fill up your wine glasses for just a moment. I'm telling you in advance, all right? And my Canadian friends back there have a nice cold beer, because I want to use tonight to explain some of what I've been doing and set forth some big plans I have in the works at Loop Capital, the Community Trust, and several other endeavors. Bryan Traubert paid tribute to my oratorical skills. Well, I don't know about that, but if I'm successful tonight it will be in kickstarting a movement to address some of the challenges in Chicago. And I'm inviting each one of you, no, imploring you to join me in that effort. Right now, the challenges facing the city of Big Shoulders are falling disproportionately on the shoulders of those who are least able and least deserving of bearing those burdens. I'm talking about our young people, particularly our young people of color. Among those burdens, the most tragic and urgent is the scourge of violence and all that violence causes in terms of the enforcement of laws, the education of our children, and the economic vibrancy of our communities. The past Memorial Day, when many of us were enjoying the sound of fireworks, young people who lived just a few miles away were sheltering from the sounds of gunfire. At least 53 shootings left a dozen of our fellow citizens dead, and the vast majority of them black men and boys. In effect, we had a mass shooting. In a diverse city comprised of millions of people, more than 80% of the gun victims are black. And the vast majority of gun crimes are perpetrated by black residents on other black residents. In response, law enforcement itself becomes a source of institutional inequality. Random violence begets institutional violence. In a city where black people comprise just a quarter of the population, they are subject to more than 60% of the criminal cases. African Americans are now incarcerated in Cook County Jail at a rate more than 17 times that of their fellow residents who are white. Can we honestly look one another in the eyes and say we do not see the structural inequalities that are the source of these problems? I don't think so. Not when the jobless rate for 18 to 24-year-old African Americans in Chicago jumped by more than 13% in the period between 2019 and 21, while joblessness rates decreased significantly for most others in the same period. Black unemployment stands at more than 4 times what it is for white residents here in our city. While employment has returned to all of those other segments of the population, our black community in Chicago has been left behind. And they are still, in many areas, living in a Great Depression. Many people, myself included, project the jobless rates in for some of the black Americans in many of our impoverished communities somewhere between 40 and 60%. And that you won't hear on CNBC. To be sure, we have some wonderful success stories in Chicago, with schools in underserved areas that outperform. That's something we should celebrate and emulate. But across the board, education rates of higher education for black Chicagoans lag by 25 points compared to white residents. Chicago's situation is not unique in this regard. This is true around our nation. It's been 55 years since Congress passed the Fair Housing Act, yet the gap between black and white home ownership, is worse than it was in 1968. with nearly a 30-point gap between rates of black home ownership as compared to whites. These structural inequities are stealing our kids' futures. They rob them and our city of their potential. And yet, when a bloody Memorial or Independence or Labor Day weekend rears itself again, we scratch our heads and shrug our shoulders in defeat. We seem unable or unwilling to understand what's happening. We wonder, what could possibly drive a young person of color in our city to pick up a gun, shoot someone, and throw their lives away? Well, if you've ever visited the corners of Inglewood or Austin, or the holding pens in Cook County Jail, or walked the cell blocks of Stateville Correctional Facility, if you've ever sat in an undersubscribed school or walked the rows of vacant lots, as I have, you wouldn't ask that question. Just this last month, a landmark study was completed nearly 30 years in the making. The Journal of American Medicine studied more than 2,400 Chicagoans in partnership with Harvard and a group called the Project on Human Development in Chicago Neighborhoods. They followed this cohort of young people from 1995 to the present. Here's what they found. More than half of black youth will witness a shooting before their 40th birthday. The average age to witness a shooting was 14 years old. More than 7% of black people will be shot before turning 40. The average age for being shot was 17 years old. And a shooting is 12 times more likely to occur directly outside of the home of a black family than a white one. How can our children focus on their studies when they are worried about their safety? Chronic stress takes a toll on the mind as well as the body, and perhaps most of all, the soul. When the odds of being shot or seeing someone shot far outstrip the odds of you graduating from high school, you have to wonder what our children think about their futures. The fact of the matter is, we cannot look one another in the eye and claim we don't see the structural inequities that lay at the heart of this problem. It starts with education, which I always refer to as the great equalizer. Children are born to learn. One way or another, they learn from seeing what's around them. They learn a lesson every time they see an adult without a job. They learn a lesson every time they see another closed storefront or foreclosed home, or when they witness a crime or become a victim of a crime themselves. What these lessons teach them is that they are not worthy of the American dream. They come to believe that they actually will never own a home. They accept that they will never graduate from college to a great career. They don't dream of the basic things that we think about: a 401k, money in your bank account, taking a nice vacation every now and then, helping your relatives out. They're convinced that all those things that are part of society are not something that they can be a part of. I believe that if any one of us were to walk a mile in their shoes, the idea of dropping out of school or committing a petty crime or joining a gang for your safety, we might think these are actually rational choices in their shoes. This poverty of hope is how a shoving match in the hallways, like the old fellas here used to have, turns into a shooting in the alleyways now. We actually didn't have guns. I can remember when I was a kid, if you heard of guys that had guns, and the guy that actually did have a gun was really a bad guy. Not everybody. What our kids see every day teaches them, to paraphrase a poem by Robert Frost, that there is nothing to look backward to with pride and nothing to look forward to with hope. I mentioned the year 1968 a moment ago, the violence that occurred during the National Democratic Convention that's etched into all of our memory. There's a phrase, the whole world is watching. And they were right. Soon we're going to have another Democratic convention here in Chicago, and the whole world will be watching. In addition, another hot 3-day weekend is right around the corner. The world will be watching Chicago then too. Most importantly, our children will be watching. And that's who we care about. Their opinions are the ones that matter. Together, let's show them something different from what they've come to expect. I believe in the maxim, if you can see it, you can be it. If you can change what our children see today, we can change what they will become tomorrow for the better. One of the greatest joys that I have in my position is to be able to invite young people from the neighborhoods to something simple like the skyboxes I have at the United Center or Soldiers Field to watch a game. And where in many cases, the food that they get that day at that event is probably the best meal they had all week. Right now, they can't see a future for themselves, and it didn't always used to be that way. I remember growing up on the South Side, being so proud to be a part of the South Side in Inglewood. When I was a kid in what is now the toughest part of Chicago, Inglewood, you actually didn't lock your doors. I don't ever remember having a house key growing up. My back door was always open. No one stole from you. No one shot at you. And that's Inglewood. As I grew older, I came to better understand the complicated and fraught history that have created certain circumstances in these communities. I learned, as Bryan pointed out, my father and mother came to Chicago in the late 40s, part of that great migration. That generation of blacks searched for better jobs, respect, safety, and education here beneath the warmth of this sun. My father from Alabama, my mother from Mississippi. And like so many of their other fellow sojourners who can trace their roots from Chicago to Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, they came here. As I was reflecting on this history, as I flew into town, as I often do, you look down on the city. And out of the window, you can see and trace the scars of how Chicago was constructed and the segregated nature of that construction. The Dan Ryan, the Eisenhower, the Kennedy, the Red Line, and how they were constructed to keep the neighborhoods segregated. Today, I drive down 79th, 75th, 73rd, 87th. You don't see what I saw when I was a kid. There was not a vacant store, vacant lot in any of those places when I was growing up. It was a strong, vibrant black community. Steel mills shut down, jobs left, meatpacking plants left, and the middle-class families were left on their own. And the city of Chicago did not have an answer for the decline in the economic activity of these communities. They didn't have a master plan for reinvigorating the economic vitality of those communities. Folks, we need a strategy to revive these communities. We need the jobs back, the vacancies gone, the good schools back, and we need to give back the hope of our young people. We have to do it in such a clear and consistent way, or else people won't follow what we lead. For as the scripture teaches us, if the trumpet blows an uncertain sound, who will prepare himself for battle? My friends, as we mark the 160th anniversary of President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation this year, let's set forth a new emancipation for Chicago's youth. Derek Douglas is in the audience, and I applaud the efforts, finally, of the Commercial Club and the Civic Committee addressing the violence on the South and West Side. I said to the leaders in World Business Chicago about 15 years ago, the CEOs in the room that's a part of the group that I'm a part of, I said, you know, if you guys don't start talking about or thinking about what's happening on the South and West Side, they're coming downtown. They're coming to Lincoln Park. And now they're talking about it. A couple of things that I will be spending my time and my philanthropy on as it pertains to my efforts in helping Chicago and Chicagoans. One, early childhood education. We need to educate mothers and fathers and help them understand that the most important years of a child's education are in the first 3 years. The path to a college degree actually starts before kindergarten. 1 in 6 children who are not reading proficiently by the 3rd grade will not graduate high school on time, a rate 4 times greater than proficient readers in 3rd grade. Mary Manuel and Mary Lightfoot each made important strides increasing access to pre-K in our schools. We have to increase that access for the black community in preschool. We need to look at ourselves and the collective power represented in this room and the investment in the future of our city. We must educate black parents about the importance of preschool education. The arc of a violent child, a shooter, begins somewhere around kindergarten. When they're in 3rd grade, but are behind in 3rd grade, they get to 5th grade. And maybe they're around 3rd grade, then they get to 7th grade. And maybe they're reading around 5th grade, and they get to 9th grade and quit because they never catch up. It was all triggered by where they were in 3rd grade. Community policing and reform. We must dissolve the debate that pits police officers against those people they protect and serve. At the end of the day, we need our police force, full stop. We wish for all of our police to succeed. For that to happen, our police must be part of the community. They must be the fabric of the neighborhoods that they're designed to protect. We need to increase our investment in police training. Consistently updating our police officers in the latest advances in community policing, de-escalation tactics, and conflict resolution. Most especially, we need our police to begin to understand how to deal with mental illness, which is at the root of so much of the challenges in policing. I feel comfortable in saying that a partnership with the corporate and philanthropic communities will help here. The corporate leadership is ready to support the police officers in this endeavor. I have been a strong advocate for police moving into the community. Police officers cannot protect and serve and have respect from people that they don't know and don't know them. They cannot just walk the beat, they have to live the block. We need to provide free housing, tax-free income, and other benefits to encourage police officers to choose to live in some of the toughest communities. That is a very small support sports and activities. When I was growing up in school, I still remember from elementary school, Officer Friendly. Everybody knew Officer Friendly. He was your friend in school. We must support police activities, sports activities designated to integrate them with the residents of the communities, football, basketball, baseball. Tom, we did that at Get In Chicago. We supported those leagues and policemen and women that were coaches for these young people. And the lines that formed from the police were overflowing with those that wanted to be a part of it. Prison reform. I've got one of my good friends here, Tyrone Muhammad. Stand up, Tyrone, please. Tyrone is one of my really good friends. Tyrone served 21 years in prison for murder. He came out and started leading an amazing group of young men and women that want to come back to the communities and be a benefit, be an add to the communities they came from. As Dostoevsky once said, the degree of civilization in a society can be judged by entering its prisons. By this standard, we are truly failing society. I am personally developing a plan which begins with bringing civilians into prisons. We actually have our first date, Bryan. We are taking the Chicago Community Trust Board into prisons, facilitated by Glenn Brooks. Thank you, Glenn. What are these inmates learning when they are confined there? How will they contribute to society when they eventually exit? How will they ever build a life or a career when they have a scarlet letter on their backs from being in prison? In many cases, ex-offenders are extraordinary workers, and once they've paid their debt, they want to get on and add to society. We need to invest in basic literacy in prisons, economic skills. We need to ban the box such that when an ex-offender has paid his debt and is out, they need to have the opportunity to earn a livelihood, to be a part of our system yet again. The goal of every prison system should be that an offender should have more skills when they come out than they did when they entered. I'm a big believer in corporate engagement and corporate job creation and how it can change a community. I had a chance, along with my partner, Bryan Traubert, and the Chicago Community Trust, to visit Chatham. We visited the MasterCard facility, one of the most efficient facilities, call centers that they have within the organization. What they did was create jobs, relocate a division, a call center in Chatham, hired residents from that community. All residents, all employees have to live within 5 miles of that community. And they have transformed that community and everything around it and the lives of the people there. I'm a strong advocate that we ought to have programs encouraging corporations to relocate facilities and divisions in some of our hardest hit neighborhoods. We ought to allow those corporations, with assistance from the federal government, that they would have 100% tax credits for all the salaries that they pay people in working in those facilities in these designated neighborhoods. I would also go so far, and the IRS may not like this one, not to say that they love many other of my proposals, that the revenue from these facilities be exempt from federal income taxes because of the benefits that they provide to the residents. Our ultimate, I think somebody's doing the math and they're saying Jim's math is really going to be expensive. Do you know what it costs? Do you know what it costs to incarcerate somebody? In Illinois, it's about $35,000 a year. Nationally, it's $45,000 a year just to lock up a man or woman and keep them locked up. When you start doing the math on these numbers of keeping these people out of these facilities and then flipping it, and they actually have jobs and vibrant and economic activity, it's a very small price to pay. My friends, this will end my uplifting remarks. That's why I told you all to drink up before I started. What a better way to honor Lincoln. Let us sound a certain trumpet, one that will follow and a common purpose worth the battle ahead. Let us emancipate our children and create that beloved community here in our city, which I'm never leaving, by the way. All right, so thank you.
Wow. I'm not sure if we witnessed a sermon or a college class, but I'm glad I attended. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Reynolds. Somehow I gotta believe President Lincoln would have enjoyed that very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for joining us tonight, for your participation and support of the Lincoln Presidential Foundation. Thanks and have a great night.